Every member of the winning team earns a gold medal. Silver is nice, but it's strictly a consolation prize tonight. You have to favor the Soviets. The only thing they've lost so far in this tournament was a fight. Coach Viktor Tikhonov, as you can see, was totally unconcerned. Meanwhile, Czech coach Jan Starší concedes the Soviets have the better talent, but in fine North American fashion says some days he has the better team. From the Olympic Saddledome in Calgary, live on CTV, the gold medal game between the Soviets and the Czechs.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Labatt's Calgary Cup Gold Medal Championship game featuring Czechoslovakia and the Soviet Union. Please welcome members of Team Czechoslovakia and Team USSR. Introducing tonight's official party, Heidi and Howdy, the official Olympic mascots. The president of OCO 88, Mr. Bill Pratt. A gentleman instrumental in the staging of the original 1972 Summit Series, Mr. Justice Joe Kriska. Vice President, Labatt's Prairie Region, Bob Benendijk. Labatt's Calgary Cup Honorary Chairman, Vladislav Trejček, and his wife, Tatiana. Heidi and Howdy have a special white hat presentation to Vladislav and Tatiana Trejček. We now ask Dusan Pashek from Team Czechoslovakia and Igor Larionov from Team USSR to participate in the official face-off performed by Tatiana Trejček.
Take a look at the referees for tonight's game. Don Gaudette from Moncton, New Brunswick, and Eric Cowan from Medicine Hat, Alberta. Bob Porter of Edmonton will be the linesman for the game. The goaltender for Czechoslovakia, Dominik Hasek, played every game here, an international veteran at just the age of 21, and a world all-star at that. And his opponent, Yevgeny Belyoshekin, undefeated here, shut out Czechoslovakia 4-0. In his first full year as the Soviet national team goaltender, he was an all-star world goaltender in 84 and 86. The year he didn't win it, Hasek won it. So that tells the story of the goaltending in this game here tonight. We expect great goaltending, and it'll be difficult to score goals against these two team defenses as well. Dan?
Quite a reception here, by the way, for the Trejčeks as they were introduced in the pregame ceremony, which I guess just goes to prove that the folks in Calgary know their hockey. Here we go, the gold medal game, and Fetisov feeding it to Larionov, number 11. Soviets in white, Czechoslovakia in the red uniform. Loose puck in the Czech end of the rink, and it's tried to be centered, now breaking out for Czechoslovakia, number 23. Dolina, right around the defense, never got the shot up. And Larionov dropping it across for Fetisov, the captain of the Soviet Union. Now to Makarov checked into center ice was Makarov. And Czechoslovakia take control and drop it deep into their own zone, and then it's just shot to center. Fetisov, number 2. Firing it in, misses Makarov with it, and back to get it and touching it. The Czech player, Bojik, and once he touches it, it's icing against the Soviet Union.
Well, is he the best player in the world? Many people think he's one of the best anyway, certainly the best in Europe. Sergei Makarov, who has just put on a real show here.
Are you saying including Gretzky or after Gretzky?
Well, a different style of hockey, of course. Put him in the context of the Edmonton Oilers, and then we would say, I still think Gretzky's the best in the world.
Let's say he may be the second best.
All right.
Puck cleared in and then grabbed by the Soviet goaltender, or the Czech goaltender, I should say, Pashek, and he held on to it.
What about it, Brad? You've watched him play. You've got to consider him rates very high on the list.
I would have to rate him very high. I've been watching him in practice this week and that whole line, but he is the standout on that line.
And the Soviets with pressure on now. Shot grabbed by Pashek as it was let go by Tatarinov from the right point, and he held on to it. Tatarinov, I should say.
There's Radina. Now, he is probably, at least in this tournament, the best player. He's his rights owned by the Calgary Flames. A possibility he'll be here and after the Olympics next year. He scored a great goal the other night as well, and he had a very dominant game against the United States.
Tatarinov bumping with Radina, and Czechoslovakia then clear the puck into center ice. And Tatarinov going back to pick it up. And it is icing now against Czechoslovakia.
Well, we mentioned that Radina is perhaps coming to the Flames, his National Hockey League rights own, and he says he'd like to do it. And Radina, by the way, we said that there would be contact in this game, that the Soviets have learned how to do it. Well, there it is. Radina got the worst of that one as Tatarinov moved in. It's a tough kid, that Tatarinov.
He's hit everybody that's moved in this tournament as number 6 for the Soviets. Tatarinov. Bouncing puck near the point, and now they are going to rule the puck was hit with a high stick. And the faceoff will come down into the Soviet Union, into the rink. Off in the circle to the right of their fine goaltender, Belyushkin.
Well, there's Vasily Parvukin, who has found himself with a new line mate. I guess the broadcasters have thanked the Soviet Union for allowing Zenitula Bilyaletinov to retire. He spent a few years trying to say that name. He is now retired, and Tatarinov now is his defensive partner, both from Dynamo.
In the Challenge Cup in New York between the Soviets and Team NHL, Danny Gallivan started to pronounce that name when he was behind his own net and didn't finish till he got to center. Here's a loose puck in the Soviet end of the rink. Mechiar over onto left wing. And now it's cleared. Fetisov couldn't get it, and it comes back into the Soviet end of the rink, and it's Gusarov. Over to Fetisov. Jam up on the boards. Fetisov clearing it. Held in by Czechoslovakia. Liba couldn't get a shot off. And the Soviets clear it to center ice. Staviana, number 16 for Czechoslovakia. Staviana closely checked on the play by Pryakin. And now it's Fetisov feeding one down left wing for number 19. Varnikov couldn't get it into the zone, and then when he did, it's offside at Team Czechoslovakia's blue line. From the Saddle Dome, this is the Calgary Cup live on CTV. No score, 17:38 left in the first period. The gold medal game, Czechoslovakia and the Soviet Union. Czechoslovakia controlling from the faceoff as they try to fire it out, but it's held in by the Soviets, and now back for Czechoslovakia. Chaika in the corner. Now they clear it, and here's a breakaway for Czechoslovakia. Pashek stopped by Belyushkin. Pashek with a breakaway, and Belyushkin beat him. Back comes the Soviets. Bykov dropping it back for Varnikov. He centered it over onto the other side. Now being held in by Stelnov, but then cleared out. Starikov for the Soviets. Shot it to center. Back comes Pashek to Cherny, and they score! Number 25, František Černý, gets his own rebound as he and Pashek broke in. And Czechoslovakia takes a 1-0 lead.
Oh, two great chances. They finally capitalize, and a big celebration here in Calgary as the team empties the bench to congratulate Černý, who got his own rebound, put it through Belosheikin's legs. And I'll tell you, that's a big deal for Czechoslovakia simply because they've finally been able to get him this year, and they haven't been able to do it since way back at the beginning of the year in a tournament they had in Prague.
What I like best about Černý on that one, he didn't wind up with a slap shot that they had the first rush, and that way, because he wasn't off balance, he was right there when the rebound came back to him.
The goal by Černý. Pashek will get one assist. It's 1-0 Czechoslovakia, and the Soviets take control in their own zone. Fetisov to Makarov. He couldn't get it, and now Kasatonov for the Soviets. Number 7 into center ice. Passing it over onto the wing as Krutov tries to center. Number 9. Krutov ridden out of the play. And now starting back, the Czechoslovak team with Peter Velk in across the line, but broken up by the Soviet Union, and right back comes Fetisov. Lead pass into Krutov. Knocked away, and Czechoslovakia then try and clear it out. Here's Larionov, number 11. Dropping it back and taking over is Kuchera. Here's a break at center ice. Czechoslovakia with Staviana moving in, dropped it back, but the shot off the stick of Dolana is blocked, and the Soviets come right back. Larionov checked at center ice by Kuchera. And there's going to be a penalty to Larionov for slashing Kuchera. Lead pass. In the clear, Hrdina. And Belosheikin came out and made the save. And now the delayed penalty called. And Hrdina slaps his stick on the ice in disgust. From the Saddle Dome, this is the Calgary Cup, live on CTV.
Igor Larionov off for slashing. Here's the incident as he got tangled up in front of the net, and he just gave it a little extra under the checking. Now suddenly the power play, and the shots on goal right now, 4-1 Czechoslovakia, so they're dominating early.
Czechoslovakia with the man advantage, trying to center, but broken up by Semyonov. Into center ice with Swetlov. Swetlov couldn't get anywhere, and it's cleared back. Czechoslovakia on the power play have Hrdina, Balek, Dolezhal, and back on defense, Sherban and Staviana. This is Sherban, or actually he gives it to the forward, who is Dolezhal. Now carried in, Hrdina, who had a great chance earlier, checked, and it's shot out of there by the Soviets as Kondorinov shot it down the ice. Czechoslovakia with the man advantage. Lead pass to Hrdina, goes the length of the ice, and as the Soviet player Starikov goes back and touches it, icing against Czechoslovakia.
There's the veteran Starikov. He's been with this team since the late 70s. Played a lot of hockey. He and, of course, Kasatonov and Fetisov. But, you know, you've noticed something, Brad, that they're using Fetisov and Kasatonov a great deal early in this game.
Well, you can tell the respect that the Soviets have for the Czechs, because usually they use four-man units, four four-man units, but they're going with 6 defensemen tonight instead of 8.
Puck cleared around on the boards. Now knocked into center ice and controlled by Bykov, number 27. He promptly loses it, and Horsheva, number 4, dropping it back to his defense partner, stolen. Here's a chance for Homutov, number 15. Homutov in for Bykov, number 27. Bykov jammed into the boards. It comes over onto the other side. Stelnov, number 4. Soviet shorthanded, but with pressure on. This is Bykov, number 27. Now to Homutov, number 15. Back to Bykov. And he's taken out of the play behind the net. Puck still loose in the corner as the Soviets, Horsheva, drops it back of his own goal. Great forechecking by the Soviets. Now on the attack, Czechoslovakia with a body check thrown by Starikov. And now they rule the puck was hit ahead with a hand pass, and that stops play. Starikov throwing his weight around on that last play to break up the Czechoslovak rush.
Well, Starikov knows about World Championships. He's played on 3 World Championship teams, including, of course, the Soviet winners of last year and also the '84 Olympics. at Sarajevo.
Now Nemchinov and Homolov out to kill off the penalty, but here's a chance for Janetsky for Czechoslovakia, shot it wide. Into the corner for Ruzicka. He couldn't center, and the Soviets shoot at the center. The team's now back at full strength. Janetsky trying to shoot it in. Soviets trailing in this game 1-0. Here's a chance for Janetsky. Janetsky with a shot off a stick and up high into the corner, in control by the Soviets. Shot around on the boards, but Janetsky there to intercept. Valyushkin a save. Jam up behind the goal. Janetsky getting it for Czechoslovakia. Now loose. Valyushkin cleared it away. And the Soviets in trouble in their own zone. Now carry out. And carrying in, number 3, Gusarov. And a save made by Pashek, and he held on. 1-0 in favor of Czechoslovakia from the Saddle Dome. This is the Calgary Cup, live on CTV. Here's the Soviets' big line on the ice now. Number 11, Larionov at center. Krutov, number 9 on one wing. Makarov, number 24 on the other. But Czechoslovakia, Sherban able to clear it into center ice. Number 11, Larionov, the center on this big line. Dropping it back to the defenseman, Kasatonov. Around to Fetisov. They play this 5-man unit together at all times. They're known as the Green Unit because they wear the green sweatsuits or green jerseys in practice. Fetisov cleared it. Now dropped back by Krutov to Fetisov. Fetisov fires it up the middle, misses Larionov with it. Goes the length of the ice and back to touch it. Sherban icing against the Soviet Union.
Vladimir Krutov missed the game against Canada. They said he had a bit of a hamstring pull, but he seems to be skating pretty well here tonight. I have a feeling that he was made a reserve type player or an extra player simply to try out young Semak on that line. And Makarov didn't seem to affect him very much, at least didn't affect Makarov, who had a simply great game.
It is Czechoslovakia's Hrdina, number 24. In across the line, couldn't get anything done. Now Chaika for Czechoslovakia. Pinned in against the boards by a pair of the Soviet players, and we get a stoppage and a face-off right at the Soviet blue line.
There's young Ludek Chaika. That's how you pronounce it. The CH sound for the C. And he is 23-year-old, another one of the young teams who just debuted. Young players, rather. You can see how young he looks.
I got a penalty on that last play, and I didn't notice it, Ron, but heading to the penalty box is Kamensky for the Soviets.
Well, there we go. Mentioned Chaika. He plays for Dukla Shilava, which is the army team in Czechoslovakia. But they, unlike the Soviet Central Army team in Moscow, Dukla Shilava has its problems winning a championship every year. They're not as dominant in their own country.
High sticking is the call. And the Czechoslovaks on the power play. Hrdina leaving it there and breaking out. Ruzicka in across the line. Couldn't get through. It's centered. Hrdina centered. Backhander. They score! Number 17, Ruzicka. It's 2-0 Czechoslovakia.
Well, we mentioned at the outset of the broadcast, two people had to turn up in this game, Pashek and Ruzicka. Well, Hrdina is there all the way along. There's the pass in front. Ruzicka just reached out, and what technique this one was. Oh,
great technique. Look at the pass from Hrdina. And Ruzicka, who had dropped the puck, actually had lost the puck inside the blue line, had so much speed, just carried in deep. But credit Hrdina with picking him up out of the corner of your eye and threading the puck through the defenseman's feet and catching Ruzicka coming out of the corner.
For Czechoslovakia, their second power play goal in this tournament in 19 chances, and they have a 2-0 lead on the Soviet Union. So a penalty to the Soviets proving costly, in Czechoslovakia controlling the puck in their own zone as Bainok, number 9, fired it into center ice. Stelnov for the Soviets. Over under right wing for Homutov. He couldn't get anywhere, neither could Bykov. And Here is a break for Czechoslovakia. Pashek shoots one. Bellows shaking a save. And Starikov, number 12. Forecheck hard by Pashek. Pashek will get a penalty on the play. Delayed penalty coming up as Bykov comes to center. Now firing it across to one of his teammates. Now fed to Starikov, number 12. Back to Bykov on this delayed penalty. In on the wing to Barnikov. Number 19, Barnikov loses it, and then the penalty will be called against Pashek of Czechoslovakia. From the Saddle Dome, this is the Calgary Cup, live on CTV.
A hooking call for Dusan Pashek down in the corner as they started to get a little too over-enthusiastic about the forecheck, and he took his man down, so he's called.
Soviets have been very strong on the power play in this tournament. 5 for 11 for 45%. And they have possession right now. Fetisov to Kasatonov, number 7. The green unit out there as they work it to Larionov. Dropping it, Fetisov partially fanned on it. And Czechoslovakia's Dolezal trying to feed Hrdina. He was upended, and Kasatonov will get a penalty for interference. And now each team will be a man short. Or that is Kasatonov who made the foul.
They did. And look at the transition game here as they quickly turn it around, and up ice they come. Kasatonov, well, there you can see the tag ended, but that was the result of the trip by Kasatonov on Hrdina again.
On Hrdina, he's on a roll right now. He would play a great game against the U.S., but if you got to put some blame on somebody, it's got to be Fetisov. The puck came out of the corner. It was a nice pass. He tried to one-time it. He fanned on it on the power play. There was really no reason for him to shoot it at that time because there was nobody in the net, and the goalie could see it all the way, but he turned it over, and they ended up taking a penalty trying to pull Hrdina down.
Each team a man short is the Soviets, and there's a check thrown right at the blue line by the Czechoslovak player, and we're going to get a penalty right here.
Well, this is Bykov. Oh, there's going to be a penalty on that, Brad?
That is very questionable. The guy jumped so high to get out of the way of Volk that he lost his balance. Volk did not really get a good piece of him to trip him. It was a matter of the Russian player trying to get out of the way of the Czech.
Well, the referee saw it differently, and Petra Volk gets a tripping penalty, 9:58 the time. By the way, Petra Volk, they say, translated, is Peter Wolf.
All right, Dan. Some deep research went into that, I know.
Here's a chance for the Soviets on a power play. Swetlop, number 16, trying to center. Comes to the point. Shot up high, wide of the net. In there is Semyonov, number 30. Semyonov can't center. Now it is center. Out in front, a shot. Deflected in. Deflected just wide by the Soviets. The Swetlop deflected it. Now it's cleared to center by Czechoslovakia. 4 against 3 power play. Carrying in. Soviets with a 4 against 3 power play. Dropping it back on the point. Katarina. Now to the other point to Perbukin. Shot just wide. Rebound. Comes in front. Can't get cleared. Chance Semyonov a shot. That's blocked and bounces to center. And going back is Perbukin. Some close chances there by the Soviets. They're trailing 2-0. Soviets on the attack as they dump it in. Homutov couldn't hold it in, and it's cleared back out where Stelnov, number 4, has it. Now Czechoslovakia back at full strength, or they're each 4 aside, I should say, for the moment. Soviets moving it in, comes to the point. Stelnov into the side of the net. Now it comes back to Stelnov again. Shoots one. Hit the side of the goal. In to get it, Bykov, number 27. Can't center, and it's cleared out of there by Czechoslovakia's Shervon, number 7. And going back to touch it, Starikov, that's icing. Each team a man short. Actually now, the Soviet team is at full strength with 8 seconds left in the Czechoslovak penalty to Peter Belt.
Well, there's a look at Igor Stelnov. Made his debut at the Olympics in 1984. Big hitting defenseman. He likes the body contact. You mentioned that things changed around in the Soviet Union back about 1970. 72 was really the watershed year in the change in style of Soviet hockey as the full contact game came into international play. Now they got some big hitters, and they like to hit, and they like to be hit.
By the way, Czechoslovakia not only with a 2-0 lead, but they've outshot the Soviets 1-1 here in this period. Now Fetisov, unable to hold it in, has to backtrack. Feeding it to Larionov. Over to Makarov, number 24. Czechoslovakia now back at full strength as Belk is back on. Konstantinov, a shot blocked. And then Czechoslovakia cleared out of there. Volyu shaken out of the net to clear it to Konstantinov. Konstantinov to Makarov, number 24. He moves in, dropping it back for Krutov. Centered. Larionov was there, couldn't get it. Now Fetisov a shot. And the save at the side of the net by Pashek. And then it's cleared by Czechoslovakia. Here's Makarov, number 24. Makarov centered. Fetisov moving in. Back for Makarov. Centered out in front. Konstantinov shot blocked. Larionov fanned on it. Number 9, Krutov trying to center it. There's a big hit back of the net, and now Czechoslovakia able to carry out with 7 minutes left in the first period. Trying to stick handle through with Stabiana, but Fetisov checked him. Here's Larionov dropping it to Fetisov. Up the middle, off the mark and going the length of the ice, and that will be icing against the Soviet Union. From the Saddle Dome, this is the Calgary Cup, live on CTV. With Ron Roos, Brad Park, and Dan Matheson, this is Dan Kelly in Calgary. 2-0 for Czechoslovakia here in the early going as the Soviet Union Swetlov giving it to Perbukin, number 5. Now into center ice for Swetlov, trying to break through. Svetlov into the corner, taken out of the play. Czechoslovakia can't get it out of there. Soviets, Kamensky battling on the boards, gets help from Semyonov. And now Czechoslovakia fire it across the ice, and Bojik feeding one to Hrdina, shot right on, rebound, and fanning on it from close in was the Czechoslovak player Bolek. And then he was upended. Bolek trying to center, but it's cleared out of there by Perbukin. Czechoslovakia's Sherban, number 7. Sherban getting it ahead to Sheba, but that's called back on a 2-line offside pass.
Well, this afternoon, Dan Kelly's Cleveland Browns advanced. Now we'll find out whether John Shannon's Denver Broncos will advance. John Shannon, our producer here in Calgary. New England Patriots against Denver right here on CTV tomorrow afternoon, 4 o'clock Eastern Time. That was some great contact right through the crease here. Watch this as he goes flying through the air on the check right in front. A little extra to it.
Kind of reminds you of Bobby Orr with no finish.
Yeah. Bobby Orr to score a overtime Stanley Cup winning goal.
Against the St. Louis Blues on a trip by Noel Picard. Here it's 2-0 Czechoslovakia as they try and move it out. Liba trying to clear it out. Now Stabiana does shoot it down the ice. And going back for the Soviets to control it is Gusarov. Gusarov feeding it up the middle. On the fly, Pryakin, number 14, couldn't get anywhere. Right back comes Czechoslovakia. Liba in across the line for Ruzicka. Penalty coming up against the Soviets. Now a puck in the corner taken by Liba. Centered, comes on the point. Shot blocked, and then as the Soviets get possession, play is called and the penalty against the Soviets. From the Saddle Dome, this is the Calgary Cup, live on CTV.
Alexei Gusarov, he cross-checked Liba here. He's one of the players, there it is. He's one of the players that was added for this tour by the Soviet national team. 22-year-old from the Army has put Czechoslovakia in a pretty good spot again.
Czechoslovakia already with an earlier goal in the power play by Ruzicka. With the man advantage again. Czechoslovakia leading 2-0. Loose puck picked up by Homutov. Has the man open in front. Gives it to the trailer. And a big save there. Rebound. And that's blocked as Homutov had another chance. Into the corner. Stelnov trying to center. And a couple of very good saves by Dominik Pashek, the goaltender from Czechoslovakia right there.
Well, if you're looking for a guy who's had a pretty good first period, it is this Homutov for the Soviet Union. Homutov, his number, as he cuts in front of the net, here it comes now, is a great chance coming up. And just finally, everybody got in the way of the shot. That was about all that stopped it. Homutov, number 15 for the Soviets.
Shot from the point by Stelnov that is handled by the goaltender Hasek. Czechoslovakia with the man advantage, but they've been unable to get much going on this power play. And the puck is shot out of there by number 12, Starikov. Going back for Czechoslovakia, Bojik, number 28. Czechoslovakia with the man advantage. Here's Pashek. He's number 21. Pashek dropping it to Черны and intercepting at the Soviets. And here's Fetisov just missing on an outlet pass to Bykov. And it goes down the ice. Czechoslovakia still with 50 seconds left in this power play. Work it to center. That's knocked down by Kasatonov. And now it comes to Fetisov. To Kasatonov. And he fires it off the boards down the ice. 35 seconds left of the penalty. Czechoslovakia, Sherban, number 7. Giving it to Kuchera, number 14. Kuchera couldn't get around Fetisov, who cleared it back out. Sherban across to Stabiana. Stabiana, number 16, moving in. Fetisov took it away from him. And then Fetisov cleared it to Krutov, who deflects it down the ice. Sherban back to get it. Couple of seconds left in the penalty, and now the Soviet player is back on Gusarov. And then Czechoslovakia go offside at the Soviet line. 2-0 for Czechoslovakia from the Saddle Dome. This is the Calgary Cup live on CTV.
On that Czechoslovak power play, the Soviet Union outshot Czechoslovakia 2-0 thanks to that brief flurry in front of the net in front of Hasek right at the outset of the power play.
Soviets are trending in the game 2-0, however. Pervukin bumped on the play, gets it into center ice. Semyonov couldn't get anywhere. And now circling back is Katarina. Over to Pervukin. Into center ice to Semyonov, but a two-line offside is called, and the faceoff will be back inside Team Soviet Union's blue line.
Upcoming games, 2 to finish the Soviet tour. The Soviets and Team Canada will be in Hamilton on Monday night. And then to finish things off Wednesday night on January 7th in Ottawa. Soviets will head home. The team will break up for the remainder of their schedule, which is like the second half of the schedule.
Soviets with a line of Semyonov, Kamensky, Swetlov up front, Pervukin and Tatarinov on defense. Trying to break through was Swetlov. Now Swetlov in the corner. Getting it to Kamensky. Kamensky, number 13. Over into the other corner to Pervukin. Penalty coming up against Czechoslovakia. And now as Czechoslovakia get the puck, Valak. Play is called, and a penalty to Czechoslovakia will give the Soviet Union the power play, and David Volek, or David Valak, gets the penalty.
Now here it is. Valak in the corner, knocked a... Well, there it is, right behind the net. As you can see some of the action there, but Valak draws the penalty, and the Soviets trying to get back in this game, down 2-0.
Brad, you coached in the NHL and you played for many years. One thing the Soviets do, they have 4 5-man units. The 2 defensemen are always with the same 3 forwards. Wouldn't that be a good idea in the NHL?
It would be. It'd be a very expensive payroll, though, to carry that many people all the time. I don't think you have the quality. It's easy here because you have so many good players.
Here's Larionov with a shot. Soviets on the power play. Czechoslovakia clear it out, and the Soviets will have to retreat. Here's the five-man unit, Kasatonov, Fetisov, and the line of Larionov, Krutov, and Makarov. Here's Makarov, number 24. Trying to center. Krutov couldn't get it in front. And over for Czechoslovakia. Belt, and then it's shot out of there by Team Czechoslovakia. 1:18 left in the penalty. Here's Makarov, number 24. Around in the boards to Larionov, number 11. Back to Makarov. Return to Larionov. Center to Larionov. Backhander. Pashek, a big save on Larionov. And he smothered it.
Well, there you see an opportunity to see, you got a chance to see young Pashek in action on Larionov. That's a tough save to make, Brad, as he goes to his backhand on it, getting it in the slot.
This was great puck movement by the Soviets, and just a bing play. Larionov go to the front of the net. Now watch him go for the rebound, but a great cover up by Pashek. He just stayed right with it, and he's going to get it with his right pad. Good move in front of the net by Larionov, but watch him pull in with his stick real quick.
He wanted to come the other way, go across the green with the shot, and that's a tough save for a goaltender to make, but he stayed right with it, Pashek did.
He did. You know, if he's on his forehand, he's going to get more on that shot than he's on the backhand. But Larionov with the hook stick didn't get as much wood on it as he wanted.
Now the goaltender Pashek diving on a loose puck. Brad, my point about the five-man units, and I agree you couldn't carry four in the NHL, but how about 3 5-man units? Wouldn't that help your hockey club?
I think it would, because most teams do it, but they have 4 lines. They start to play 4 lines. When you're at this level, there's a very fine line as far as puck movement, and the better that you know the people you're playing with, the better your passing is going to be.
This is Hrdina, who's out killing a penalty, dropping it to Staviana, who fired it down the ice. We're in the final minute of play. 40 seconds left in the penalty to Czechoslovakia as the Soviets work it out on right wing. Barnikov, number 19, feeding it in for Bykov. Centered, wide open was Stelnov, but he couldn't get a stick on it. And then Hrdina cleared it away for Czechoslovakia. Starikov, number 12, into center ice. Now they break it up there, and Czechoslovakia now fire it back into their own zone for Bojik to kill off more time in this penalty. Soviets trying to move in. Barnikov, number 19. Into the corner. We're down to 15 seconds left in the period. Penalized player for Czechoslovakia back on. Soviets hold it in. Starikov now centered. Comes into the slot. Stick handling in. Homutov can't get the shot off, and we'll get a tripping penalty here against Belk, I believe, of Czechoslovakia. They just killed one off, and they'll get another one right here.
Soviets tried to put a little additional pressure in and get a goal late in the period, and they paid the price. Great moves inside the line there by Homutov again. We keep seeing his name and keep seeing his number coming up, and Volk finally drew the penalty on it and has gone into the... No, I said Volk, but
it's Banach that got it. I said Volk too.
Yeah, and so Banach goes in. 1957, so they'll drop the puck here and then go to the dressing room.
Just 3 seconds left in the period. 2-0 in favor of Czechoslovakia. Face off as the Soviets gear up another power play. Semyonov got it. Quick shot wide of the net off the stick of Tatarinov. And there's the end of the period. 2-0 in favor of Czechoslovakia. Shots on goal. Czechoslovakia had 8. The Soviet Union had 5.
And that is certainly world class right there, although they haven't shown it so far in this hockey game against Czechoslovakia. Czechoslovakia leading 2-0 after one period here at the Saddle Dome in Calgary in the gold medal game for the Calgary Cup. The goal scoring in the game so far, Черны from Pashek and Bojik at 3:04. An even strength goal, and then on the power play, Ruzicka from Chaika and Hrdina. With that point, Hrdina takes over the scoring lead here in the Canada Cup. He has a total of 6 points, so he has kind of showed off for the home folks, or at least the people he thinks might be home folks to him, when we come past the Olympics in 1988, and he is allowed to come to Canada to play perhaps with the Calgary Flames, and Hrdina has admitted that it's something that he has long dreamed of.
Erdina ran with 6 points. Mark Hampshire and Chris Felix of Team Canada and Larionov of the Soviet Union are right behind. They each have 5 points. Yeah, Erdina last night, from what I understand, was a guest, and Cliff Fletcher, the president and general manager of the Calgary Flames box. Meanwhile, the Flames have made no secret of the fact they want to do everything above board. They want Erdina or any other player, when it is the Czechoslovak Hockey Federation's permission is granted to those players.
Well, there seems to be a change of attitude in Czechoslovakia. First of all, they've lost so many players through defection, including people that I think could have helped this Czechoslovakian team right now. And I'm mentioning, of course, Peter Svoboda, now playing with the Montreal Canadiens. Svoboda was a junior when he defected to Canada, but he certainly would have been part of this team. And, of course, the fellow that Brad Park coached in Detroit, Peter Klima, one of the European and international superstars who's now scoring goals and will score a lot of goals in the National Hockey League. Sloboda Pivonka now with Washington, Musil, who plays in Minnesota. So they've said, well, if they're going to defect, let's make it a little easier for them to come here, and perhaps we can get them back to play in our Olympic Games.
Czechoslovakia a man short as this period begins. Banach in the penalty box, 1:50 left, and the Soviets, as period 2 gets underway on a power play. Here is Fetisov, shooting it in to Makarov, back to Fetisov. Cross ice pass, Larionov to Makarov. Now to Krutov. Krutov, number 9, to Makarov. Fetisov at the point, shoots wide by a couple of feet. Petra Volk able to clear it out. And Czechoslovakia's Kuchera got it as far as center ice. Now Kasatonov for the Soviets. He's number 7, to Fetisov. Now to Makarov, leaving it there for Krutov, back to Fetisov. Into Larionov. Shooting, and that's knocked away by Pashek. Held in by Kasatonov, bouncing puck, and Dominik Pashek grabbed it and held onto it.
Well, for years we got used to the pose that Ken Dryden had when he used to lean on the top of his stick. That was Kenny's way of relaxing. How about Bieloshakin? He has his own way. Now listen, wild play was going on down at the other end of the net, and Bieloshakin actually gets down on his knees and just relaxes. We don't have a shot of it right there, but perhaps we can get it a little later. He's down on his knees in almost the Tony Esposito butterfly style, and he sits there in almost a hockey goaltender's version of yoga. Well, you have to take a break. They don't get a chance to go sit on the bench.
Stavyanov for Czechoslovakia clears it away. 44 seconds left of the penalty. Fetisov to Kasatonov. Feeding it to Larionov, number 11. Now dropping it to Fetisov. He's a big part of this power play for the Soviet Union. Fetisov to Larionov, cutting in. Larionov shooting. Save on the play by Pashek, and then it's cleared away by Czechoslovakia. 17 seconds left in the penalty. Kasatonov ahead now on the left side to Bykov. Over to Makarov as the Soviets change into Bykov. Round on the board to the other side to Varnikov. Now, the knock back on for Czechoslovakia, and there he is getting the puck. Just coming out of the penalty box. 3-on-2 break. And offside on the play was Черны at the Soviet blue line. From the Saddle Dome, this is the Calgary Cup live on CTV. Early in the second period, Czechoslovakia 2, the Soviet Union nothing. Bykov, Varnikov, and Homutov, the forward line now for the Soviets. Shot in by Valek for Czechoslovakia. And the Soviets try and move it out of there. Here's a pass to Bykov, number 27. Pashek there to intercept, and he's knocked down by Varnikov. Banach for Czechoslovakia. Beating it ahead for Sheba. Couldn't get it in. And back comes Bykov. Bumped on the play. Carrying in Varnikov for the Soviets. Varnikov taken out behind the net by Banach, and then cleared away by Czechoslovakia. And going back for the Soviets on the touch is Starikov, icing against Czechoslovakia. How about the tone of this game, Ron? 2-0 Czechoslovakia.
I don't think Soviets are skating as well as they can. There was a good collision out there. Varnikov, this play inside. There it is, as they slam in against the boards. Actually, there were two good collisions. That was Bykov up against the boards on the far side. Varnikov a little earlier, just at the blue line. But I don't think the Soviets are skating that well, Brad. It seems to be a little lacking, and that's very rarely you see that in a key international game.
Almost like they're a little bit out of sync because they're a hair away from completing some very nice plays out there. You got to credit the Czechs because they're throwing them off, and especially, I don't think the Soviets like to play come from behind hockey.
Never met a team that did.
The line of Semyonov, Kamensky, and Swetlov now out there for the Soviets. But Liba, number 11, has it for Czechoslovakia. Liba, number 11, circling back over to his teammate, Sherban, got it to center. Now Tatarinov cleared one. Intercepted by Czechoslovakia, Stavianov. He moves in, but it was knocked away by Semyonov. And the Soviets carry out of their own zone. Lead pass on the wing to Swetlov, number 16, breaking in. But the play was offside at Team Czechoslovakia's blue line as you look at number 11. For Czechoslovakia, Igor Liba.
Well, there is Bielo shaken. Will this become the new pose in hockey? Ken Dryden, as we mentioned, had that long standing. Of course, he was so tall. But he just sits there, play goes on, and he's relaxing. Take the pressure off. Now he's ready. There's no problem. He sees them hit the line, and he gets back into his goaltending pose.
Still 2-0 for Czechoslovakia. And trying to clear it out. Soviets can't get it out. A shot right on. Oh, a close call there by the Soviets as the shot came from the point by Gusarov.
And it was Priakin who got the deflection, and what a deflection it was, too. And I think off his backhand here, Brad.
Oh, a great shot. Look at the concentration on the Czech goalie Hasek. He just stayed right with that puck.
Well, Hasek had lost the stick, gets it back again. Puck cleared down the ice. Gusarov back to get it for the Soviets, and that's icing against Czechoslovakia. From the Saddle Dome, this is the Calgary Cup, live on CTV.
Picked it up a little bit. They have outshot Czechoslovakia 4-0 in this period so far.
And their big line out there now, Larionov, Krutov, and Makarov. Puck cleared to center, Kasatonov has it there, giving it to Krutov. Krutov shoots one. That's wide of the target. Bojik for Czechoslovakia. Trying to get it out of there. Now Petra Volk does clear it out. Here's Kasatonov. Now for Krutov. Krutov dropping it back, but intercepted by Dolana and cleared for Czechoslovakia. Kasatonov to Krutov, intercepted by Bojik and cleared in for Czechoslovakia. Here's Makarov back for the Soviets. A shot at the center. Staviana has it there. This game being played at a slower pace here. Czechoslovakia protecting a 2-0 lead. Banach to center ice to Pashek. And across the line, but broken up by Fetisov, and back come the Soviets. Almost stolen by Makarov in front of the net. Now falling, he centered it. Here's Larionov. Getting it to Varnikov. Now to Makarov. Kasatonov tried to center, but Staviana intercepts, and here's Pashek down the ice with Dolana. Long shot by Dolana wide of the net. And going back, the Soviets try and clear it and get it into center ice. Homutov, number 15, he's upended, and there'll be a penalty here to Sherban of Czechoslovakia. Homutov has been a going concern all night for the Soviets. From the Saddle Dome, this is the Calgary Cup, live on CTV.
Badri Sherban picking up a tripping penalty. Homutov, as Dan mentioned, has been a going concern in this game all the way through. He's probably the most effective forward so far, at least in our view. He drew a penalty. It's the third straight penalty that the Czechs are going to have to try and kill off.
Soviets are 0 for 4 on the power play tonight. They're trailing 4-0 as Homutov tries to drop it back. Hits the skate. Now centered. Out in front, Hosik gets his stick on a pass out by Bykov, and Czechoslovakia able to clear it out. Soviets with the man advantage. And here comes Bykov, number 27. Bykov cutting in, dropping it back to Starikov. Shot, save, rebound, fanned on by Homutov. Now centered, but Hrdina for Czechoslovakia. There to clear it, and here's Horsheva shooting it onto the other wing for Pashek, but it's held in by Starikov. Into the corner, Homutov got it in front. And out of the net, to clear it away was Pashek. And at the point, Starikov couldn't hold it in. Stelnov back to get it for the Soviets, who still on a power play. 50 seconds left as Stelnov shoots it in. And back and touching it for Czechoslovakia. Horsheva, and that's an icing call against the Soviets, who look a little frustrated right here.
Well, I think they're being frustrated by Hosik as much as anything else. The kid's playing the type of hockey that we heard that he could play. He's a very young man, and he's just getting used to international play. Look at this as he stays up, stays with it. And he helps himself, too, because he stopped a pass out from behind the net, prevented a chance in front of the net there, and he just kind of batted it away.
Banak holding it in, firing it back of the goal. And the Soviets still in a power play. 35 seconds left. Try and break out. Carrying in on the wing. Now they drop it back to the point. Here is a pass in on the right wing side. Semyonov centered. Pashek a save on the deflection from the far side. And then some pushing and shoving. Good save there.
Well, the same play produced a goal for Czechoslovakia earlier. Semyonov turning inside the zone. He'll spot his man right across the goal mouth. Pashek smelled it out all the way, and he was there to make the save.
This is the kind of passing and the skills that you've got to credit that the Europeans have really perfected, or the best players here in North America. It was a big, big play, but that man right there, Pashek, he has been outstanding in the last minute and a half of this period. He's just been terrific.
Soviets leaving the line of Semyonov, Swetlov, and Kamensky out there. With the point men going to be Pervukin and Tatarinov. Semyonov getting it into the zone, but Czechoslovakia able to clear it back out. Soviets get back on side. Still a dozen seconds left in the penalty. Here's Semyonov to Tatarinov. Long lead pass eludes the intended receiver, Swetlov. Now Semyonov, number 30. Penalized player is back on for Czechoslovakia, Sherban. Here's Semyonov. Bumped on the play by Bojik. And now Czechoslovakia carrying out Dolezal, number 15. Moving in, and the play is called back. I think on an offside.
Sherban was offside on the left side as they hit the line. The one man cut across the blue line, but Sherban kept moving in. You don't see a lot of offsides in international play. There was a miscommunication there as they hit the line.
Particularly by the Soviets.
They just never seem to do it. You might notice there's a slight change in the Czechoslovakian uniform. They have a white stripe in their road uniforms up along the shoulder.
There's Czechoslovakia, and the long shot handled. 2-0 in favor of Czechoslovakia. Centered, Liba with a chance, but he shot it wide. And then Stelnov able to clear it into center ice. Now dumped in by Stelnov. Czechoslovakia, Sherban, number 7. Getting it to Liba, number 11, who had the good chance moments ago. Liba into Yanetsky. He can't get it centered. And Gusarov firing it around in the boards, and now back in the corner. A penalty coming up to the Soviets for interference to Stelnov from the Saddle Dome. This is the Calgary Cup, live on CTV.
Igor Stelnov off for interference. Watch number 4 as he tied his man up going up against the boards. That's what drew the penalty, and the attention of Don Gaudet, the referee. So after 3 straight power play advantages for the Soviets, they now will have to kill off a penalty.
The line of Ruzicka, Balak, and Liba for Czechoslovakia. Point men are Chaika and Horsheva. This is Horsheva. leaving it there, and Hrdina got it to the line. Kasatonov intercepting. To Makarov for the Soviets. Makarov, number 24. Back on the point to Fetisov. Now fed into the other wing for Krutov. Krutov out there killing the penalty to Makarov. Right in. Makarov. And Pashek dives out. Or Hasek dives out. And made quite a save. The shooter had all day, and Hasek wouldn't move.
I think he was trying to stick handle around a stick that was lying on the ice, but also Hasek didn't give him anything.
No, Hasek stayed right with him, but watch the play by Krutov. What an individual effort right here. Breaks in, he makes the pass, he has everybody committed. Now here comes Makarov. He's got that stick, he can't get around, hits the end of the stick and throws him off.
Oh, he had Hasek cold, but Hasek didn't move. He stuck right with him. I like his movement, don't you, Brad?
He does. He was moving back and forth. He was ready for the shot, but he knew that this guy's not like this guy. He wants to beat me and get me going down and go upstairs with it.
Quite a play by Krutov to set it all up. They're still out there as penalty killers. Czechoslovakia, by the way, 1 for 3 on the power play tonight, and they've taken a 2-0 lead. Sheva, number 22 for Czechoslovakia. Passing it to Pashek. And Czechoslovakia on the power play come to center. Carrying in is Bojik. Ridden out by Kasatonov. And then the puck winds up underneath the Czechoslovak defenseman, Moamir Bojik.
Well, the Soviets don't believe in sitting back, do they, when it comes to penalty killing? Looks like the Edmonton Oilers penalty killing unit. Of course, when you've got a Makarov out there and a Krutov out there, with that great skating ability, why not go on the offense? Why not take it to them on the other end of the ice?
You could tell there that Makarov went behind the net with a puck, and he made the pass back to Fetisov at the blue line. Now, normally a defenseman's going to back out with that puck, but he stood there, and he put it back into Krutov, and that's how the play developed.
Soviets shorthanded, able to clear it down the ice. Sherban, number 7, back to pick it up. Still 40 seconds left in the penalty. Czechoslovakia on the power play. This is Pashek trying to shoot it in. Черny can't get it. And the Soviets fired around onto the other side. Czechoslovakia hold it in. Staviana into the side of the net. Center. Черny was open, but it never got to him. Staviana holding it in, and the Soviet player for Bukin can't clear it. Now in the other corner, Starikov trying to get it out, held in. Here's Staviana at the point. Over to Sheva. Centered, side of the net. They score! Pashek! It's 3-0 Czechoslovakia.
With 1 second left in the power play. What great puck handling here.
This is the second time that Pashek tries to do the same thing. The pass in beside the net. Look how much room he's got. He jams it. It comes back to him. It's in the feet of Beloshakin, and he jams it in the corner. Here's a good angle of it, Ron. Watch him come out, get his own rebound. He's strong on that puck, because that Soviet defender was really trying to bury him.
Yevgeny Beloshakin proving he's just human in this game.
Well, he's a little unprotected there too. Pashek, just they're getting to him. They're not taking him out. There seems to be a little more room to move in front of the Soviet goal that I think Beloshakin's used to see.
Well, the Soviets, what they were doing in the killing that penalty, the left defenseman was more worried about the guy on the wrist shot out by the hash marks than he was on the pass into the net. He was too far out. He couldn't get back to the net in time. And you can get out of place in this kind of game. You can lose your concentration of where you are on the ice.
The scoring play, Pashek from Staviana and Sheva, 10:24 the time. Now the Soviets on the attack. And Krutov is high stick. There's going to be a penalty here to Czechoslovakia. Soviets try and center. Kasatonov loses it as Kuchera gets it, and now a high sticking penalty against Czechoslovakia. From the Saddle Dome, this is the Calgary Cup live on CTV.
Ludek Chaika for high sticking at 10:51. You don't want to get too many penalties against the Soviet Union. You're going to wind up in a lot of trouble. I don't care how well or badly they're playing. Krutov apparently got a whack across the nose. That may have been the high sticking right there, and he is now being treated at the bench. Don't mind having that guy on my team either. Homutov.
Out there to replace him is Homutov on that line with Larionov and Makarov. Soviets on a power play. Asatonov, a point man, along with Batisov, working it in. Homutov around to Makarov. Soviets trailing 3-0, but on a power play here. Batisov getting it in. Here's Homutov centering it. Asatonov. Bad angle to Makarov, who panned on it. And now back comes Banat, trying to clear it in. Chance here, and Kuchera is stopped and pulled down. Fans thought a penalty should have been called, none was. Soviets come back, trying to get it to Larionov, but intercepted and shot away by Bolak. And it's Batisov back to pick it up. 1:05 left in the penalty to Czechoslovakia. Batisov to Homutov. He's out there on this power play, replacing the injured Krutov on this big line. Makarov, number 24. Batisov, now to Larionov. To Makarov. Batisov, intercepting at Staviana. Ahead for Hrdina. And Hrdina just stick handles in center ice to kill some time. Now drops it to Staviana. With penalty killing, here's Hrdina, number 24, loses it. Back come the Soviets. Moving in is Svetlav, number 16. Back to Perbukin. Now it's returned to Svetlav. Back on the point, Perbukin to Svetlav. 10 seconds left in the penalty. Stelnyov centers. Nobody there. Held in by Tatarinov. Couldn't get a shot away, and Czechoslovakia cleared away, and we're going to get a penalty here against the Soviets, just as the penalty to Czechoslovakia ends, and a slashing penalty coming up here to Kamensky of the Soviets. From the Saddle Dome, this is the Calgary Cup live on CTV.
Valery Kamensky off for slashing. He's number 13. Watch for it as they bring the puck out. Oh, slash, trip, whatever.
Czechoslovakia with a 3-0 lead with a big chance here. Only problem has been the Soviets have probably been as dangerous when they're short-handed as when they're on the power play, or at least certainly when they've been at full strength. Czechoslovakia leading 3-0, and they've scored 2 of their 3 power play goals with the man advantage. Now the Soviets and Shinov, number 21, tried to center. Held in by Stelnov, couldn't get the shot off. And now Sheba for Czechoslovakia, number 22. Trying to get it to Pashek, and cleared away by the Soviets. 1:20 left in the penalty to Kamensky. Czechoslovakia with Yaroslav Banat. Cross ice pass to Черны. Черны dumping it in. Going back for the Soviets. Gusarov fails to clear it, now gets a second chance and shoots it away. 57 seconds left in Kamensky's penalty. Number 7, Cherban for Czechoslovakia. Cherban trying to hit Ruzicka, does on the fly. 3-on-2 break. Ruzicka almost got through the defense. And then it comes back to Cherban at center. Over to Staviana. Back to Cherban. Cleared into center ice, and now the Soviets take control. Trying to work it ahead, they do to Bykov. He's bumped by Cherban at the blue line. Now Homutov carrying in. He's hit by a high stick, and a penalty coming up here to Hrdina for high sticking. And each team will be a man short. Soviet player down on the ice is Homutov. He was high sticked by Hrdina.
Well, up against the boards. It was a good chance to see it. I think it was a little inadvertent on the part of Hrdina. As they go in now, let's see what happened. Yeah, he came up, hit him across the face. Now, that is a little extra, I think, but he took a whack across the chin, and the referee made sure he saw it. I should mention the Soviet Union will continue its tour of Canada as they will play exhibition games in Hamilton and Ottawa against Team Canada. That'll be Monday night in Hamilton and at the Ottawa Civic Center on Wednesday night. And then it's home again. We mentioned the Soviet and the fact that they are resuming their schedule in league play. They start the season with 12 teams and play each other once, home and away, to account for 22 games. Eliminate 4 teams. The remaining 8 will play each other twice for 14 more games, with the previous standings carrying through. And 5 more teams are eliminated down to 3, and they play a round robin to decide the Soviet Championship. So it's a series of elimination rounds.
There's a 2-line offside called against Czechoslovakia. Soviets in this period have outshot Czechoslovakia 8-3. Petra Volk.
Peter Wolf, as Dan so interestingly pointed out a little earlier, this 22-year-old from Dukla Žilava, the Czechoslovakian Army team, is making his debut in the international play right here.
By the way, in 8 seconds, when the Soviet penalized player returns to the ice, Kamensky, he's back on now, so the Soviets on a power play. 1:40 left in Hrdina's penalty. Here Karov, flying to center. Back on the point. Centered again as Krutov's back out there. Now to Makarov. Number 24, Makarov. Back on the point, Fetisov to Kasatnov, shot blocked. And then cleared by Banach up over the glass into the crowd. Now you look at this green unit for the Soviets. Larionov, Krutov, Makarov, Kasatonov, and Fetisov.
There's Kasatonov right there. The big fellow is very much underrated because of the fact he plays with Fetisov. But I'll tell you something, in this tournament, Kasatonov's been a better defenseman than Fetisov, who is not playing with the emotion that he used to play.
By the way, this green unit has 17 points in this tournament, scoring points.
I mentioned that Fetisov has had a tragedy in his family, and it seems to have affected his play a lot. I'll tell you about it a little later.
Czechoslovakia clearing it down the ice. Kasatonov back to get it. 1:05 left in the penalty. Here's Krutov. Couldn't get through the defense. Pashek shooting it away. And Fetisov, number 2, back to pick it up. To Larionov. Over to Krutov. Kasatonov at the point. Into Makarov. Makarov back on the point. Kasatonov to Larionov, number 11. Now to Fetisov, and it hopped over his stick and goes the length of the ice. 30 seconds left in the penalty. Fetisov into Krutov, broken up. Davyanov trying to clear it. Held in by Krutov. Over onto the wing. Now it comes to Kasatnov. A shot block. Rebound. Krutov banned on it. Never got the shot off. Krutov still after it. Now coming to Smetlov, number 16. Kasatonov into Fetisov. Penalized player. Back on Hrdina for Czechoslovakia. Czechoslovakia killing it off from the Saddle Dome. This is the Calgary Cup, live on CTV. With Ron Roos, Brad Park, and Dan Matheson. Dan Kelly in Calgary, 3-0 Czechoslovakia. Late in the second period as the Soviet Union's Kamensky gets it into the zone, but shot right back out by Horsheva. Now Dolezhov, lead pass for Czechoslovakia. And that's going to be an icing call as he was on his own side of center when he shot it in. Well, the Soviets on that most recent power play. Krutov had a couple of good chances, but couldn't pull the trigger at all.
See the little butterfly bandage they've got over his eye. It's great chances there. Just the things aren't clicking, Brad. You don't very seldom do you see Krutov, who's a pure gunner, run into problems like that.
Well, there's a shot by Tatarinov from the point that the goaltender Hasek had to be alert on, and he held it.
One of the things the Soviets have always been known for was being able to move the puck around for that one-timer. Now, most of the Soviet players are all left-hand shots. It seems that the Czechs are forcing them to move it from the right wing to the left wing, so whoever gets it over there has to turn their body to shoot it.
The line of Semyonov, Kamensky, and Swetlov for the Soviets. They try and center, but Hrdina gets it for Czechoslovakia. He can't clear it, but Horshiba does. And then a collision at the blue line. Soviets on the attack again. Carrying in Kamensky. Can't get it centered. Chaika intercepts. Now out onto the right wing side to David Bolek, who cleared it away. Tatarinov into center ice to Homutov. He's checked, and Hrdina for Czechoslovakia. Now back comes Semyonov for the Soviets. Here's Horshiba for Czechoslovakia. Shooting it in. Racing in to get it. Bolek can't get it centered. And now the Soviets take control again, and Stelnov clears it into the Czechoslovak end of the rink. Banach, number 9, forechecked hard. Here's Homutov trying to center. Banach recovers. Good it onto the boards. And Barnikov now trying to hold it in. Get some help on the play from Bekov. But back comes Pashek for Czechoslovakia. He loses it. And now the Soviets attack again. Barnikov, number 19. Barnikov centered off a skate, and Pashek intercepts for Czechoslovakia. 1:20 left in the period. Pashek with a pass off a stick and up into the crowd.
Well, we know that the Cleveland Browns are going to be in the AFC Championship game. Who will they be playing? There's another game yet to come. That'll be tomorrow at 4, and then next Sunday, we don't know whether it'll be the early or the late game. But it'll be the AFC Championship game right here on CTV. 3-0 here, Czechoslovakia and the Soviets, as we look at Larionov moving in to take the face-off right at center ice.
The big line, Larionov, Makarov intercepting one. Makarov trying to center. Makarov, number 24, to Fetisov. Fired it into the corner, and Stabiana there to clear it out. Here's Czechoslovakia, Dolanov dropping it to Liba. Now to Kuchera, it comes to Dolanov again. Sherban at the point, shoots. Save made there by Voloshekin. And then he grabbed onto it and held it for a face-off, and Czechoslovakia with a little offense at this point.
There's some pretty cool goaltending right there. Kuchera right on the doorstep, number 14. The shot there is Sherban. And as it's kicked through the skates right in front of the net, there's one, and then a second chance, and right down goes Voloshekin. There is Fetisov. We mentioned his brother. We mentioned the tragedy in his life. He was with his brother in a car accident. The accident killed his brother. This was back in 1985. The brother was slated for the Soviet national world junior team. And they say from about that point, and the people in the Soviet Union admit it, he has never been the same as Fetisov. Just not the sharp. He doesn't play the game with the emotion he used to play.
Late pass into the Czech end of the rink, cleared by Stabiana. Volk can't clear it. Centered out in front. Larionov blocked in the play on a good defensive play by Petra Volk. Now Makarov trying to steal it. 18 seconds left in the period. Soviets try to carry in, but it's cleared out by Czechoslovakia. Now with a dozen seconds left in the period. Makarov in his own zone to Fetisov. Back to Makarov. 3 seconds left in the period. Makarov moving in. There's the buzzer to end the period. Surprisingly, after 2 periods, Czechoslovakia leading the Soviet Union 3-0. From the Saddle Dome, this is the Calgary Cup, live on CTV.
At the Saddle Dome in Calgary, a shocker, 3-0. Czechoslovakia leading the Soviet Union going into the 3rd period. And Dan, you look at the situation the Soviets face right now, some teams would have a big problem, but the Soviet Union practices at a very high tempo. It's a much higher tempo than they actually play on game days. They are capable of turning this game up a couple of notches. And so don't write them off. As Dan Matheson said at the end of the intermission period, they are clearly capable of moving up to such a tempo that they completely swallow up their opposition. Now, we've also seen Czechoslovakia doing a great job of getting to the puck ahead of the Soviets and so on, and that probably is the difference in the hockey game right now.
Ron, I heard you make the comment earlier that a couple of guys in Czechoslovakia had to show up tonight. One was Družicka, the other Pashek. Pashek's had a goal and an assist. Ruzicka a goal. Looks like they've showed up.
Well, they showed up finally in this tournament, and at exactly the right time. The Soviets need one guy, I think, to get his game going, and that is Fetisov. He's a wheelman from the defense. He makes the offense go. And right now the Soviets have been held off the board. That does not happen very often. Although we can say that at the Izvestia tournament, the Soviets managed just one goal against Czechoslovakia and Pashek. And there's Dusan Pashek. As we mentioned, a goal and an assist. Another player from the Czechoslovakian Army team known as Dukla Shilava. And a draft choice in 1982 by the Minnesota North Stars. He's a Slovak, by the way. There are only a couple of them on the team. As we look at the coach, Jan Starcy, and František Pospišil, one of the greatest defensemen ever to play in Europe. On the left of your screen, and there, of course, is Tikhonov, who I'm sure has had a lot to say in the last 15 minutes or so to a team that's come up flat in a championship game.
Brad Park and Dan Matheson were talking about the Soviets being able to score 3 goals in 14 seconds or 3 goals very quickly. The question is, can they score 3 goals quickly or at all on the goaltender, Dominik Hasek, who's been brilliant for Czechoslovakia. Here we go with the third period at the Calgary Cup at the Olympic Saddle Dome. Hope you've enjoyed our CTV coverage for the past week. And we are ready for the third period. 3-0 for Czechoslovakia over the Soviet Union. The big line of Larionov, Makarov, and Krutov out there with the defense combination of Kasatonov and Fetisov. Here's Fetisov to Makarov, number 24. Swings around one man, now Larionov trying to center. Pashek out of the net to clear it, and Chaika knocks it away with Fetisov back together. Here's Larionov to Makarov. Trying to get through, couldn't, and Czechoslovakia, Horsheva clearing one ahead for Liba. He couldn't get it centered. And it's Fetisov for the Soviets. Fetisov into Krutov. Broken up and cleared out of there by Bojik. Katarinov. Now a cross-ice pass. And moving in, Swetlov gets it into the Czechoslovakian end. Horsheva trying to clear it. Soviets jamming up on the boards. Kamensky. Here's Kamensky again. But Czechoslovakia able to get it out of there. And going back and controlling the Soviets at their own line. Here's Semyonov, number 30. Drop pass into the corner. Bojik for Czechoslovakia. Shooting it around to Bolak, but held in by Semyonov. Soviets down by 3. Czechoslovakia with Horsheva clearing it all the way down the ice. And the goaltender, fellow shaking out to set it up. Here's Homutov, number 15. Homutov barging through the defense. Backhander! And a good save there by Hasek. Now into the corner. Barnikov trying to center. Barnikov out in front, banned on his shot as he was tied up by Sherbaum. And then Czechoslovakia cleared out of there with the Soviets still not back together. Bykov, number 27. Over onto the wing. Now they can't get anywhere, and the Soviets have to circle back. This is Bykov. Over to Starikov. Now into center ice to Homutov, who's been one of the best of the Soviets tonight. Homutov, number 15, dropping it back. Comes to Stelnov. Shot deflected. Oh, that's just wide as Barnikov deflected it. Pressure by the Soviets. The shot goes wide. Stelnov holding it in. But Staviana for Czechoslovakia trying to clear it. Now held in again. A drive from the point by Starikov. Blocked at the defense, and Banach tries to clear it, and does. Here's a 2-on-1 break for Czechoslovakia. Shot by Pashek just wide. Now, Chaika holding it in. And going back to Starikov, number 12. Starikov into center ice to Kryakin. Kryakin trying to get it in front. And then Czechoslovakia clear it out. Gusarov, number 3. Rink wide to Priyakin. Priyakin to Homolov. Couldn't get it centered, and then when he did, the net was knocked loose, and we got to stop it. From the Saddle Dome, this is the Calgary Cup live on CTV.
Well, they went 3 minutes and 23 seconds without a whistle to start the period. The Soviet Union starting to get it going now here in the third period finally, but they still haven't been able to crack the shell of the Czechoslovak defense.
And here's that green unit, the unit that usually gets the Soviet Union going. And we get an immediate stoppage as they jam up. Makarov being pinned in against the boards.
Years ago, Sergei Makarov's brother, who used to play with the Central Army team, never made the national team, brought a young boy from Siberia to Moscow, introduced him to Valery Harlamov, and that young fella there says, I'm going to play for the Soviet national team. And about 10 years later, he did, and he is still playing with them, still playing great hockey.
Face-off won by Czechoslovakia and immediately cleared out. Fetisov to Larionov, number 11. Number 7, Kasatonov to Krutov. Missed him, and Czechoslovakia come back. Petra Volk with a long shot. Fellow shaking, handling it. Larionov now stolen by Czechoslovakia. Trying to work it in front is Dolan on number 23. And now Fetisov to Larionov, number 11. Larionov gets it through the defense, and then it's grabbed by Pashek. And he held onto it for a face-off.
And that young fellow, who many people in the National Hockey League thought might defect. There was a lot of rumor to that end, but he has not. He's recently married, he's happy, and he is in the Soviet Union and will remain there. Drafted by Vancouver a couple of years ago, but Igor Larionov, who speaks English fluently and actually partied with Team Canada after the Canada Cup most recently. That's I think what started the rumors, but I think probably the rumors were a lot more rampant here than the Soviet Union. I think he's quite content where he is. Dolezal took a shot there, and he's on the limp a bit.
Tatarinov let it go. It deflected and went up into the crowd, and then Tatarinov goes and gets a new stick. The line of Semyonov, Kamensky, and Swetlov up front. Verbuchen and Tatarinov on defense. Verbuchen on the boards, getting it to Kamensky, and it comes back to Tatarinov. Tatarinov to Semyonov, number 30. Semyonov working it in, and it comes back to Semyonov. Shot just wide. Swetlov, number 16, to Semyonov. Pinned in there by 2 players from Czechoslovakia. Now back to get it again. Sherban trying to clear it. Held in by Verbuchen. And then the puck flips up into the crowd, and someone has a souvenir of the Calgary Cup. Soviet Union down 3-0, 15:09 left. The forward line of Bykov, Varnikov, and Homutov with Starikov and Stelnov on defense. Into the corner, Shaika trying to tie up the Soviet player. But it's Homutov, he continues to battle. Homutov trying to drop it back. Shot from the point by Stelnov is handled, and now it's cleared out by Czechoslovakia. Horseva couldn't get it out of there. Into the corner after it. Varnikov, number 19. Varnikov around in the boards, but Horseva there. Able to clear it out, then it's shot back in by the defenseman Stelnov, but it's offside at Team Czechoslovakia's blue line.
The fellow there is František Pospišil, who is now an assistant coach to Jan Starcy. What a hockey player he was. He wore number 7 for Czechoslovakia for a lot of years. He was the captain of Czechoslovakia from 1972 all the way through the 70s, through a couple of world championships, played almost 262, did play 262 international games, which is 4th all time in Czechoslovakia.
Here's a deflection by Nemchinov, and a good save there by Pashek. Shot came from the point by Gusarov, and Nemchinov was there to deflect it.
There's the shot, and it's a perfect, not a shot, but a pass. It was not intended to reach the net. It was intended to be deflected.
It was. They're very astute at that. They see things when they pick the puck up at the point. Not very many defensemen are going to pick those type of things up, but all the Russian defensemen did.
Soviets have the Czechs pinned in their own zone. Here is a pass into the corner as Dryakin tries to center. Can't get it done. Czechoslovakia now clearing it, and they get it by Gusarov. Now back comes Czechoslovakia, and the play goes offside as the Czechoslovak player Yanetsky tried to take a dive to draw a penalty, but it didn't work. From the Saddle Dome, this is the Calgary Cup live on CTV.
During the Calgary Cup, Labatt Breweries of Canada announced details of the Olympic Parents Program. It's quite a thing, really, for the parents of competitors here. They're going to get an opportunity to come to Calgary for the Winter Games in 1988. And Labatt's will provide prepaid return air transportation to Calgary from the homes of the parents. It's a great opportunity and a really wonderful move by Labatt.
The big line of Larionov, Krutov, and Makarov out there. Here's Fetisov to Makarov. Makarov for the Soviets. To Fetisov. Shoots one. That's blocked by Staviana. Penalty coming up to Czechoslovakia. And now as Volk gets the puck and cleared it, that tripling penalty has been called. And Czechoslovakia will be shorthanded, trying to protect a 3-0 lead.
I'll just watch the right leg of the Czech defender here. That's a pretty good trip there, and you get away with that quite often. It slipped up behind him and just lifted him up.
It was a penalty. It's one of those things you want to slide the guy down to your leg so it doesn't look like there's a big herky-jerky kick out or a cross check or something like that. The one thing that I'm seeing here, the Russians are having difficulty tonight with the Czechs, where they didn't have that difficulty with Team Canada, Team USA. The Russian defensemen haven't been able to hold the puck long enough to really break their speedy forwards away. The Czechs are as quick as skaters as the Russians, therefore they get to the Russian defensemen and they can't hold that puck to get those big breaks.
Well, look at the life on that Czechoslovakian bench. They're really excited about what's going on out there now.
Soviets on a power play. They're 0 for 7 tonight on the power play. Larionov trying to get it loose on the board. Does. But Czechoslovakia able to shoot it out of there. They have 13 minutes left. This is Fetisov for the Soviet Union to Krutov. Now Kasatonov. They head to Krutov. Broken up and shot away by Czechoslovakia's Yaroslav Banach. Here's Fetisov. To Makarov, number 24. Makarov tied up and Staviana able to clear it out of there. Bolo shaken to set it up. Now here's Kasatonov. And then cleared away by Horsheva for Czechoslovakia. Fetisov back to get it. Crowd here in Calgary have been rooting for Czechoslovakia all night, and they're starting to rev it up. Here's Makarov clearing it in. Krutov in to get it. Now Horsheva able to shoot it up.
Oh, they're doing a great job, and again, the Soviets are not getting in. They're dumping it in and then not getting in there to get the puck, and they're making it easy for Czechoslovakia.
The Czechoslovakian forwards are doing such a good job of checking and kind of mixing things up in center right so things aren't running smoothly for the Soviets. And if you watch, the Czech forwards are only taking 20, maybe 25-second shifts.
Any thoughts, Brad, on the Soviets' problems in the power play tonight?
Well, that's been a problem. I think Pashek's been their biggest problem. They've got the shots, but he's just stopped everything that's thrown at him.
There's Homutov trying to center, comes back to Homutov, right in. And a block there by Bojik to knock it away. Now Banach trying to clear it. Held in by the Soviets, but back checking by Hrdina gets it into the corner. And then, with Czechoslovakia back at full strength, they clear it down the ice. Soviets still now bleeding a rush. 3-0 in favor of Czechoslovakia. Stelna into the corner. Staviana there. Stelna trying to get it in front, but now Czechoslovakia breaking out. Got up to the line, and then it's cleared away. Czechoslovakia, Staviana couldn't get it in, and Bykov knocked it down. Here comes Homutov, number 15, into the zone, but Liva there for Czechoslovakia. Now over for Sherban. Shot in by Sherban, and it deflects into the corner. Soviet Union playing catch-up here. Varnikov getting it into center ice. Now a chance, and unable to get around the defense for the Soviets was Svetloff. Soviets holding it in, but Czechoslovakia work it to Chaika. He cleared it to the line. Now Leva trying to drop it back. Comes right back for Horsheva, who shoots it away. And as Katarinov goes back to play it, Beloshakin had to, and there was no icing. Now into center ice. Czechoslovakia, Dolezhal knocking it ahead for Ruzichka, who shoots it in. And going back for the Soviets, Pervukin. This time it is icing against Czechoslovakia. We're down to 9:46 remaining. Soviets trailing 3-0. Czechoslovakia in their own zone, and Dolezhal cleared it out of there, but it's called back on a two-line offside pass.
Well, tomorrow on CTV, New England against Denver. That's the late game, the 4 o'clock game in the NFL playoffs, the AFC semifinal. And the winner of that, of course, will go on next weekend to meet the Cleveland Browns for the AFC championship.
Soviet Union at their own line, clearing it up the ice. Now try and move in, and Chinov couldn't get anywhere. Back comes Bojik, moving it in onto the wing. Now centered, but intercepted by the Soviets. Cleared to center, and Bojik with the toughest body check of the night, really racking up Homolov on a clean body check. Now Nepchimnov gets to center, couldn't get any further. Soviets Pervukin shooting it in. But it's shot right back out by Czechoslovakia. And they're going to rule that Gatarinov could have played it on the way down, so there's no icing. Soviets trying to get out of their own zone at this point. They're trailing 3-0 in the gold medal game. Fetisov to Makarov. In behind the defense, Makarov looking for Larionov. Can't get it to him. Center to Krutov. Missed him with it. Here's Fetisov. Into the corner. Now Krutov to Fetisov, but Petrovok able to clear it away. And Kasatonov had to hustle back to beat Dolezhal. Now Larionov clearing it. Staviana, who's been a tower of strength defensively, broke it up. Shot in by the Soviets. Staviana there again. And then it's cleared out by Czechoslovakia. Soviets with just over 8 minutes left. Down 3-0. Here's Fetisov to Makarov. Makarov banned on the shot, still loose, but cleared by Chaika, and Fetisov couldn't hold it in at the point. Fetisov to Kasatonov. Back to Fetisov. 7:45 left. Fetisov giving it to Homutov. Homutov into center ice for Bykov. Back for Homutov. Trying to center. They drop it back. Shot from the point. That's blocked. And here's Черны for Czechoslovakia. And he just dumps it in. Soviet Union with Stelnov, number 4. Into center ice to Bykov. Over onto the wing. Now centered to Homutov, but knocked away. And back comes Czechoslovakia. Pashek's long shot wide. Sheva held it in. Now Pashek gets it on the other wing, a quick shot. Beloshakin handling that, and here's Stelnov for the Soviets. Less than 7 minutes to play in the third period. Homutov into the zone. Homutov still with the puck. Homutov then checked in the play, and back comes Czechoslovakia. Breaking into center ice, Bolek. Over onto the wing for Banach, back to Bolek. Now Tatarina cleared it into the corner. In there is Dolezhal, number 15. Tatarina for the Soviets. And Tatarina just had to flip it to center. Soviets circling. Bykov, number 27. Into center ice. Soviets now work it to Semyonov. Over onto the wing, and Demensky's long shot wide. Now held in by Gusarov. Puck back of the Czechoslovak goal. Staviana clearing it. Held in by Pervukin at the point. And a jam up on the near boards. Centered a shot up high as the man in the slot was wide open, but the shot by the Soviet player Svetloff went up high. Svetloff open again, he scores! Svetloff on a setup there by Kamensky, and the Soviets break the shutout with 5:42 left.
Well, with 5:42 left, they've been keeping the area in front of the net clear until just about this moment. And again, it was just kind of a good chance first. Now this one just chipped out there, and all he had to do was chip it right into the net. Svetloff getting it wide open side, and even then Pashek was across there, had a shot at it. It was chipped over top of him. So Svetloff gets the goal, and look out, because the Soviets will be coming at him now, even with 5:42 left.
Sergei Svetloff with the goal, number 16. He had just missed one earlier, and he put it over top of the net. But that time he put it in. Here's Makarov as the Soviets charge on the attack. Dumping it in, Fetisov to Makarov. Makarov centered, oh, and that's shot wide. Czechoslovakia under pressure, clearing it out of there. Fire it all the way down the ice, and it's icing as Kasatnov is back to touch it. 5:23 left from the Saddle Dome. This is the Calgary Cup live on CTV.
Vladislav Tretiak signing a lot of autographs. I think he'd like to go down and help out a little bit right now. His team trailing by a couple. That's Vladimir and wife Tatiana watching here in the Vladislav Tretiak right here in the Saddle Dome.
There's a quick shot right from the face-off by Krutov that the Czech goaltender Pashek had to be sharp on. The big line, Larionov, Makarov, and Krutov out there. Here's Kasatonov, the defenseman. Drops it to Larionov. Shot into the corner. Horsheva for Czechoslovakia cleared it. Held in. Here is a chance as the Soviets move in. Fetisov to Makarov. Couldn't get turned around. Back to Fetisov. And he shot. Now Kasatonov is checked as the puck is knocked to center ice. Krutov has it there to Fetisov to Krutov. Krutov moving in. Shoots! Pashek the save. As the defenseman Horsheva fell down. Now centered. And Czechoslovakia's Chaika able to knock it out of there. With Kasatonov back to get it, number 7.
They're really cranking it up now, Dan. They've got their game going. Now it's a matter of can Czechoslovakia weather the storm.
Bykov clearing it in. Czechoslovakia trying to shoot it right back out, and they do. And Sheva tried to break in, did, but it's offside at the Soviet blue line. 4:04 remaining here in the third period. Soviets have scored. They've outshot Czechoslovakia 5-1 in this period. 19-15 in the game. Here's Sheva with a pass ahead for... Now it was broken up by the Soviets, and right back they quickly come. Barnikov, number 19, but he runs onto a brick wall at center ice. Going back for the Soviets, Stelnov. Stelnov leading a rush. In onto the wing, but Tatiana there to knock it away, and he's going to get a penalty. And Czechoslovakia will be shorthanded here with 3:33 left from the Saddle Dome. This is the Calgary Cup live on CTV.
3:33 left, and Antonin Staviana picks up the penalty right there. Borderline stuff, I have to think. And look at the reaction from the bench. So in Czechoslovakia, Don Godet, the referee, is not the most popular guy.
Soviets on a power play. 0 for 8 on the power play tonight. Dolezhal trying to get it out. He couldn't, but the trailer for Czechoslovakia does shoot it up. We're down to 3:15 to play. Soviets in their own zone. Stelnov, number 4. Ahead on the wing to Bykov. Cross ice pass as the Soviets try and spring a man free on the power play. Back on the point, shot off a skate, and cleared by Czechoslovakia. Down the ice as Dolezhal shot it up. Back comes Starikov, number 12. Leaving it for Makarov, who's just over the boards. Now Larionov carrying in. Larionov a shot. Off the glove of the goaltender and then cleared away by Czechoslovakia. A minute left in the penalty. 2:33 left in the third period. This is Fetisov on the Soviet power play. Can't get it through. Shot back out by Czechoslovakia's Gusarov. Now Kasatonov, number 7, trying to carry in. Kasatonov in behind the net to Larionov, to Makarov, to Fetisov. Now to Fetisov, over to Kasatonov. Shoots one, just one. Krutov trying to center. He's pinned in against the boards, and then Horsheva cleared it away. Fetisov pinching into Makarov. Now to Larionov. 18 seconds left in the penalty. To Fetisov. Now Larionov closing in, centered. That was just chipped away. And then Pashek cleared it away for Czechoslovakia. 5 seconds left in the penalty. 1:36 left in the third period. Here's Fetisov as now the penalized player Stabiana back on. Soviets, Krutov firing it in. And then the goaltender, Pashek, decides to freeze it back to the net. And now Krutov getting a step up in front of the net with one of the Czechoslovak defensemen. We're down to 1:20 remaining.
Well, we've got a David and Goliath situation here. The Soviet Union, a country of 250 million people. Czechoslovakia, a country of 15 million people. In the whole country of Czechoslovakia, they have just 70 indoor rinks. That's about the number I think you have in suburban Toronto. And yet here they are, really socking it to the Soviet Union, and they've done a great job.
There's a bouncing puck by Tatarina from the point, wide of the net, and then grabbed by Pashek as it came off the boards. 21-year-old Dominik Pashek has been a key man tonight.
We've had a grand total in this game of 34 shots, 19-15. Czechoslovakia has kept the game under control and allowed Pashek a lot of protection. And then he's made the big saves when he's had to.
Now the Czech Sardina clearing it down the ice. Soviets back to get it as they fight the clock. 1 minute left. Get it to center, but Stabiana, who's been outstanding on defense, cleared it back in. And it's Tatarina shooting it to center. Knocked back in by Hrdina. Now taken by the Soviets. Here's Tatarina, but he couldn't get around the defenseman Stabiana, who broke it up again. Now Semyonov, number 30, in to get it. And again, Stabiana back for Czechoslovakia, clearing it out of there. Wide of the net it will go as the Soviet player Verbuchen back to touch it. We're down to 28 seconds. That's how far away Czechoslovakia is from the gold medal in the Calgary Cup.
You saw the veteran Verbuchen look up at the clock. He knows that it's ticking away here. 28 seconds remaining. There have been just some great games between Czechoslovakia and the Soviet Union. Czechoslovakia winning the World Championship 2 years ago in Prague, beating Canada. There's a timeout been called here. 28 seconds remaining. And in Prague, the final game came down to Canada and Czechoslovakia for the gold medal. See if we can listen in here, but of course we won't understand a thing. Pospisil is the man in front, the assistant coach.
And taken off at the Soviet bench.
There are a lot of laughing on that Czechoslovakian bench. Nothing at all, of course, coming out of the Soviets, who are a dejected lot right now. They came out flat in this game, and they really only got their game going in after the 5-minute mark of the third period.
Ron, I don't know how many times that I've mentioned the name Stabiana on the Czech defense. Number 16, he's 23 years of age. Shot from the point, they score! The original shot was blocked, but they get the rebound in with 24 seconds left. The Soviets narrow the gap to 3-2. It's not over yet.
Well, that's Starikov at the blue line just getting it in there. Now the rebound, that Starikov is there. Also right there is Homutov, who has been very, very important to the Soviets in this game. Here it is again, loose in front of the net. Homutov on the backhand, and he gets it in there. If there's been one player on the Soviet team who has been there all night long, it has been Homutov. And he finally has something to show for it.
By the way, that defenseman Stambiana I'm mentioning is a 23-year-old draft choice of the Calgary Flames. Meanwhile, 24 seconds left. Can the Soviets pull it out? At center ice, it comes to the Soviet blue line, and they fire it up and kick it in, digging in after it. Now on the boards, Bykov can't center it. Czechoslovakia clear it. The goal is empty. 6 attackers for the Soviets. Makarov back with 5 seconds left. Makarov trying to shoot it in. This game is over. Czechoslovakia, as you look at Pashek do a dance, wins the Calgary Cup and the gold medal with a 3-2 upset over the Soviet Union. You think the folks in Calgary like it? And do you think that Czechoslovakian national team isn't happy? Final, Czechoslovakia 3, the Soviet Union 2 from the Saddle Dome. This is the Calgary Cup live on CTV. Czechoslovakia 3, the Soviet Union 2, the official post-game ceremony.
Awards presentation. The Labatt's Calgary Cup honorary chairman, Vladislav Tretiak. And Mr. Bob Binnendijk, Vice President, Labatt's Prairie Region. For Team Czechoslovakia, number 2, Dominik Hasek.
Can't argue with that selection, can you?
Absolutely not. He was. Well, you keep the Soviets off the board for 2 periods, allow your team to get in front as he did, and then weather a storm at the end.
By the way, Hasek is property of the Chicago Blackhawks.
Number 15, Andrei Homutov.
No, Homutov was clearly the best Soviet here.
Had their second goal late in the game at 1936 to make it close, and he was a driving force all night.
Well, they compare him a little bit to Ken Linseman. He's a very gutty kind of a player.
The presentation of the Labatt's Calgary Cup will be made by Bob Binnendijk. To number 21, the team captain of the winning team, Team Czechoslovakia, Dusan Pashek.
Speaking of having a good game, Pashek really showed up tonight.
Had a goal. A silver medal for the Soviet Union. They're not used to having silver medals.
No.